It's Sports by the Book at the South Point Studio. Here's Jeff Parles and Alex White.
Welcome in to Sports by the Book. I'm Jeff Parles. Boy, we got some great action tonight. The Nuggets look to close out the Timberwolves tonight.
And I'm Alex White. Of course, we have a great NBA game, but we also have two fantastic on the ice that I'm looking forward to.
Alex, you are right before the show, just to give you a little look into the show. You have a quiet confidence about the Hurricanes tonight. The quietest of confidence with the Canes at this point.
Listen, the last two games, we didn't have a show. We didn't talk about them. And they got here forced to game 6. So I don't really want to talk about it too much. If the people who have been watching know that Jeff has the New York Rangers, I have the Carolina Hurricanes. It was not looking great for my team.
You just hit the biggest stereotype in the history of bettors. Superstition. Just a little bit. Just a hair of superstition with that, Alex. Just a hair.
I can't help it. Are you not superstitious at all?
I have no control over what happens. If you asked me in 2019, yes, of course. When I first moved out to Vegas, a little story time right out of the top, because of course Ryan McCormick is here. His dad up at Red Rock, at least back at he's still at Red Rock, right? Yeah, up at Red Rock. I would make sure the first month that I lived here, because I had a really good day. The first day betting college basketball at Red Rock, I made sure I went to the exact same window every single time.
Okay, yeah.
And then had one bad day, and then I stopped doing it. So probably about 72 hours total.
It's very important to remind yourself and remind other bettors that you don't have any influence on it. It's
no
very
influence.
true.
No influence. No influence on it. For the most part, except for your own life, of course. All right, let's get to the starting five. Again, I mentioned it right at the start. The T-Wolves and the Nuggets. Denver tries to go backdoor sweep. They were in an 0-2 hole. They're now up 3-2. They're 2-point underdogs tonight, Alex, with a total of 205. Opening total has been bet all over the map from 204.5 to 203.5 to 204.5, now 205. And the hook has been taken away here.
That total is really tough to figure out. You would think it would correlate with which team, but we'll break that down more when we dive into that game. Number 2, game 5, tied up on the ice. You now have a best of 3 with the Oilers going to Vancouver here. Edmonton still a big favorite on the road, minus 140. Total still 6.5 under minus 120.
Number 3 today. You intentionally left this one for me, didn't you? Intentionally left Carolina and the Rangers for me. The Canes looking to get out of the 3-0 hole and not this series at 3. If Carolina wins tonight and Game 7, they will be the 5th team in NHL history to come from 3-0 down. The last team to do it won the Stanley Cup. That was the 2014 LA Kings, who did it to San Jose in round 1 in the playoffs, where the Kings had to play 3 Game 7s in the first 3 rounds before winning the Stanley Cup final. The Canes, by the way, favorite today, minus 160, 5.5 the total on that one.
Being back at home, we'll see how that goes. I mean, regardless, it's going to be a great game, and if they force a Game 7, we'll have an even better one there. Number 4, very short baseball card today, but the Phillies are going for a 4-game sweep over the Mets. Philly right now with the best record, 31-13.
Phillies playing some incredible baseball. The Mets playing some awful baseball, at least over the last week. And then number 5, they're underway at Valhalla, and Xander Schauffele, 7 under here in round 1, still with 5 to play. Way better than what we did at the Scramble the other day on Monday. But Schauffele, plus 190 in live markets. Make it 8 under now for Schauffele. He just birdied 14. So off to a roaring start in Louisville for Xander Schauffele. You want to play in that top 10, Alex?
I did.
You did. Well, that looks good so far through 14 holes for Schauffele.
Xander's been a great bet for top 10, and he's had the lead going into a lot of these tournaments, going into that Sunday 4th round. But we'll see. I mean, a lot of people were worried that giving up that lead at Wells Fargo to Rory, losing that one, he would come in not in this top game, right? Kind of get to him in that way. We're seeing the complete opposite. He looks motivated.
Right now, Robert McIntyre and Tony Finau sit at 5 under, rounding out the top 5. Ben Coles, I'm not sure who that is, who's 3 under. Taylor Moore, 3 under, and Jordan Spieth.
I was going to say Jordan Spieth.
Jordan Spieth at 3 under. You know, Spieth, as we talked about yesterday, Morikawa was the only bet I ended up making. He doesn't tee off till later in the day. Spieth was the only other guy I really considered because it's like, wait a second, I'm getting 65 to 1 on Spieth at a major. So far, so good, but again, Jordan Spieth is just so erratic at this point that it's very hard to place a wager on him, Alex.
It is tough, and that's what you want. You want consistency, you want the accuracy, and of course, the long ball off the tee at a field like this. But yeah, it was tough. A lot of people going for Spieth just to try and close out the deal, win that Grand Slam.
Danny Burke will join us in about 25 minutes from now. DB is weekly check-in on a Thursday this week. He has thoughts on Ryan McCormick's Bears, which are actually Danny Burke's Bears as well. He'll have a lot of other thoughts as well. He has some baseball thoughts, one play in the NBA game tonight. Danny with us in 25 minutes. But for us, Alex, we get rolling here. Let's just update everything on the series prices on the hardwood here first. Denver, of course, entering tonight minus 450 as they look to wrap things up tonight. The Celtics, there's no series price anymore because the Celtics wrapped that thing up last night. It was number roulette, depending on what you got last night.
Yes, it was.
With the Celtics winning by 15. Early numbers on Boston were good. Late numbers on Boston were not last night. So it all depended on what you got there. That game also went well over the total as well. But Cleveland out with a whimper. The Celtics into the Eastern Conference Finals where they will play the winner of Knicks Pacers, game 6 tomorrow night, of course.
I bet you are very happy that series is over.
These Celtics series have been useless so far. They've been unwatchable for the most part. And you can't, and again, look, for Boston, they were the favorites going into the playoffs to win the NBA championship. Right now, the Celtics at a lot of books, just making sure that I wrote the right thing here. You're laying prices with Boston basically everywhere right now. Mostly $1.30, $1.25 on the Celtics to win the NBA championship. And now I'm not saying that's not if you like the Celtics, they're going to be huge favorites against whoever comes out of the Knicks Pacer series. Big favorites.
Absolutely.
Probably $6?
Ooh.
$7? I don't think that's over. I don't think that's too much with the way that the Knicks' health is at this point. Maybe I'm off if it's the Knicks. The Pacers, I think they will probably be $6 or $7. I would be inclined to take a flyer on Indiana at that point, probably if I'm getting 5 or 5.5 to 1. But look, for Boston, Alex, at least from a betting perspective, you're now kind of at the point where you need to wait on a circuit. Like, look at that. I mean, this was entering last night. Minus 650 on Boston entering last night to win the East. That is now even shorter with their win last night. They're pushing $9. So yeah, I guess you would be looking at maybe $8-9 actually in that series price against the Knicks or the Pacers, regardless of the opponent. Which seems wild, but I don't think that's wrong.
I mean, Boston is clearly the better offense and defensive team over both of them. And I know the Knicks, that number would be a lot different if they were fully healthy. Yeah. But the Pacers really, I mean, the biggest question mark always is their defense. So now they're facing a top 2 offense in the league. So it would be a very tough matchup for the Pacers.
Minus 750 right now, the predominant number out there on Boston to win the East. That number, if it's Indiana, will go up. You'll have to lay an even bigger price if Indiana wins the series. The Knicks, I'm not sure where that will go. I think it all depends how Jalen Brunson looks in a potential closeout, in whatever that closeout game would be for the Knicks, and how quick the turnaround is. I believe, they haven't announced it yet, but based off of the rumblings, if the Knicks close this thing out on Friday, game 1 will be in Boston on Sunday. So it will be no rest whatsoever for the Knicks going right into it. Game 7, of course, if it is New York and Indiana with the Pacers winning tomorrow night, we would get a game 7 in New York on Sunday afternoon.
So looking at these series prices, I found this very
Please.
interesting in Jeff Fogel's newsletter. So the Nuggets here at the South Point minus 475 have a little bit better than an 82% chance to finish this series. Minnesota plus 375 here at the South Point, plus 350 at other places. So if you like the Wolves, this is a
your
good spot. So about a 22% chance to close out this series. Interesting, right? We were talking about OKC and the Mavs. You could have got a good plus number there if you took them yesterday going into that game. Now we have Dallas minus 380, which is about 80% chance to win this series. I think that sounds about right. Up one game now.
So just going to the Denver series first.
Okay.
Real quick. I just want to bring this up because that's the game tonight, and then we'll look back at what we saw yesterday because I was pretty gross from Oklahoma City last night at home in a game you had to have against Dallas. For tonight, with Minnesota and Denver, Alex, I'll just say this. If you wanted to bet the Timberwolves tonight, I'm not going to stop you. They haven't won a home game yet in this series. The series is flipped on a dime, on a total dime because the Nuggets decided to start playing once the series got to Minneapolis. But I have a hard time not seeing the Nuggets just locking this thing down tonight, winning their fourth straight, and this being like a moment for Minnesota, at least this group. All right, hey, we got to be a lot better, a lot more consistent. We can't no-show a game 3 at home when we have a chance to put the knife in the back of the defending champions. But here you are tonight. Plus 110 on Denver. I don't mind that. That would be the best play from this game tonight for me. And as we've mentioned in this series, the totals, other than one game, have been pretty darn close to what they've been closing at so far in this series.
The totals have been right on. So that is a tough bet to try and make there either way. Glad you brought it up, Jeff, and talking about the Nuggets kind of flipping that switch, because watching 1 and 2, it was like, look how good Minnesota's defense is. But was that the case, or was Denver just struggling shooting the ball? Now, on the flip side, has Minnesota's defense slipped up, or is Denver just shooting lights out, which we know that they are more than capable of? The one thing that we do know for sure, though, is that the Nuggets are the better team in this series, and I'm with you. I think that's the best play right there, taking the Nuggets, or if you want to wait in-game, you're going to get a great effort from Minnesota coming out of the gates. They get an 8-2 lead, 10-2 lead. You could get a better number with Denver and, over a possession there. I think that's the way I'm going to play it.
Are there any props in this game that you're looking at, Alex?
I was looking at Anthony Edwards going over 2.5 3-pointers in this one. He's had the looks. He's had the attempts. He's done it in 3 of the 5 games, had at least 3 3-pointers. But other than that, not too much. But it is tough. I mean, they have been double teaming him. They figured a lot out and figured their defense out. So it's gonna be a tough one, but you're right. They haven't won one yet at home, so I don't want to completely count Minnesota out. We are going to get their best effort. Neither of these teams are going to give up.
This is a very difficult prop game for me. Again, I want to see also, is Mike Conley ready?
Correct.
Remember, he missed game 5 with that strained Achilles, I guess it was technically Achilles soreness was what they listed it as. Obviously, teams correctly very cautious with that now, as we've seen too many Achilles injuries over the last few years. I would be very cautious betting any Timberwolves related props until we see Mike Conley in or out. It definitely impacted game 5. Minnesota's offense, now granted, hadn't run as smoothly since game 3, but it really was not smooth for the most part in game number 5. The other things in the NBA, Alex, real quick. We have no more games today. We're back on it tomorrow. We have 2 tomorrow. We'll have full breakdowns on the show of these games. Right now, Pacers only 5.5 against the Knicks, so coming in lower by 1.5 or 2 whole points than they did in game 3 and game 4 at home. Total is back at 216. Okay, not much of a difference from what we saw in Indiana. And then Oklahoma City and Dallas, they're not laying Dallas 2 anymore. Not putting that out there. Dallas 4 right now against Oklahoma City after really just a very disappointing performance from a very young team in a game that they really needed to have last night. And Dallas looked like the experienced team last night, and took full advantage of whatever that was from Oklahoma City.
I really anticipated seeing a positive regression in the Thunder shooting, and we didn't get that.
Nope.
Instead, it was really all Dallas, who shot 40% from three. So that was a great performance by them. I think we might see a little bit of a negative regression, though, from the Mavs going into this one. Just still too early. Going to dive into this a little bit more before I make an ultimate decision.
The big concern, I will say, just going in this game, we'll have the full thoughts tomorrow. Because we'll have a better idea how this market plays out, and we'll also have a better sense of a day of game where my head's at. It looked like Oklahoma City's defense cratered. That's my bigger concern. Yeah, Dallas shot a great percentage from three last night. They shot over 50% from the field overall. But I thought that more had to do with the fact that Oklahoma City's defense was giving them too many quality looks as opposed to Dallas making shots that were difficult. That was the biggest alarm bells I had for OKC last night.
Wouldn't you say on the flip side, though? I mean, the Thunder had their opportunity too and had some, but so maybe both of them were kind of playing each other that way. But Dallas definitely out-rebounded them.
Yes. Well, yes. You look, you can make that argument you just had for sure. I mean, you look at that game last night, there were 75 combined threes shot. A lot of threes.
Yes.
OKC was 25%, 10 for 40, and Dallas was 14 of 35. I'm no mathematician, but 4 times 3 is 12, and the margin was 12. So that was there. It's not always clear cut like that,
right?
Where it's like, hey, the 3-pointers made was the difference in the game. It was last night, and again, I just think that the defense cratered more for OKC, and Dallas's defense. I didn't think OKC had. I thought they had some good looks that they missed, but that's an NBA game. It's going to happen. Teams are going to miss good looks. I thought Dallas just had way more good looks, and in the end, the numbers played that out.
Does that lean you to one team or the other going into the next game?
I at this rate, I'm not. I don't have a thought right now. I probably will by tomorrow. But if you said, "Hey, you have to make this bet today," I would be surprised if this Dallas number does not get larger by the time the game starts. I think we'll get to 4 and a hook. I was still a little surprised. Remember that those games early in the series were coming 2.5 with Dallas at home.
Yes, you were.
I think we see 4.5 again before this game gets going. I don't know if that will be the closing number. 4 could very easily be the close, but I do think we see 4.5 again, Alex.
So if you do like the dog, wait, you'll probably get a better
That would
number.
be my philosophy, absolutely. Yep. You even get a little better money line price if you think Oklahoma City will pull the upset and send this thing back to Oklahoma for game number 7. All right, we'll take a quick break. When we get back, we're going to go to the ice. 2 games tonight. Alex is already refusing to talk much about the Rangers and the Canes. Very suspicious, or not suspicious, superstitious. Well, suspicious, superstitious, whatever word you want to choose. All of them work in that spot. And, of course, the Canadian series, which has been a whole boatload of weird, to say the very least. Sports by the Book, South Point Studio. We're back with that next.
From the South Point Studio, the perfect blend of sports.
But I think the Niners are going to wear them down. Detroit Pistons lost their 36 games.
Comedy.
See over-under on that relationship lasting. I'm going to put mayo in the coffee.
Yes. I am beautiful. And a whole lot of Pittsburgh.
In Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh. Yeah. Pittsburgh.
Join Ryan McCormick.
That's at least 2 picks outside of our own in the first round next year. Oreo.
And host Frank Nicotero.
I look at the clock, I go,
Watch Punchlines live at noon every weekday.
Once you've satisfied your hunger, get ready for more of the hottest casino games in Vegas. Our 24-hour, 30-table non-smoking poker room proudly hosts all the most popular poker games with a variety of betting limits. Visit the poker room for a schedule of daily tournaments. Whether you're going to hold 'em or fold 'em, the best place for poker is at South Point Casino. You'll notice that our craps tables are usually the loudest in the casino. If you've never played, join one of our free craps lessons to find out what makes this game so exciting. Check with the craps dealer for schedules and give it a roll. Bingo is also an exciting way to spend your time. We offer 7 sessions of bingo every day. Bingo! And each session includes a cash ball jackpot, 12 bingo games, a progressive double action game, and a $10,000 bonus coverall. Electronic units are available. If you haven't played bingo with us, give it a try today. Guests can also get in on the action at our one-of-a-kind race and sports books. 2 separate rooms designed to maximize your experience and comfort. Our sports book, with over 400 seats, puts you right in the middle of the action, 24 hours a day.
Welcome back in Sports by the Book. I'm Jeff Parles. Alex White's here as well. Sean is here. Ann is here. Ryan is here. By the way, if you missed what happened on Punchlines earlier this week, go to Twitter. Go to our friend Keith Lyle's Twitter account. Go to Awful Announcing. It wasn't awful. It was hysterical. But Frankie did something, even by Frankie's standards, pretty outrageous, Alex.
Very outrageous. And no, Matt did the play-by-play of him golfing, and that was fantastic. So that was anything but awful announcing. But yeah, go find that. It's a great clip.
Matt Neverett, of course, who will be here tomorrow for a little bit of our show. I haven't seen Matt in a little bit, so that'll be good to chat with him. And also, Ryan McCormick got congratulations on the promotion, Ryan. Congratulations. Yeah. Ryan McCormick promoted according to the article as well. So we're proud of Ryan for that. All right, Alex, let's go to the ice here tonight. Let's start, well, because your superstition is there, we'll wait on the earlier game. Let's go to the late game first. This is 13 and 14 on your betting cards. Edmonton, Vancouver, in a series that has been odd. Edmonton is a minus 145 favorite tonight, plus 125 on Vancouver with a total of 6.5. Goaltending's been all over the place in this series. Sealos was great in the 2 games at Edmonton after being pretty mediocre the first 2 games of this series. Pickard is going to start again for Edmonton as Skinner's on the bench, and that might be for the rest of the playoffs for Edmonton's run. Series price, Alex, you still get plus 175 on Vancouver, which still feels pretty intriguing going into this game 5.
Yes, it does, especially if you're going to make the case, as I am, that the Canucks can actually win this game 5. I like the value here with Vancouver. For me, the Oilers minus 140 in this game is a little aggressive. I have the minus 120. So I do have value with Vancouver. And as long as they stay out of the box and they keep it 5-on-5, they'll be okay. They can hang in this one. And of course, the young goalie. As long as things don't go bad, because things could go very bad, right? If the Oilers break and get a couple goals or even 3, it'll be tough. He's got to really hang in there. But Oilers, 5 of their 14 goals in the series have come on the man advantage. Canucks got to stay out of the box, keep it 5-on-5. They have the advantage there. They're tough, gritty. We've seen what they can do. I think you're getting a lot of value here with them at home.
You know, this has been a series for Vancouver. This has been a postseason for Vancouver where their defense has had to play at a ridiculously high level because of the goaltending injuries, because their offense is just not creating chances like you would anticipate for a high-end team in the Stanley Cup playoffs, which if you look at their regular season resume, they play it as a high-end team for the majority of the season. They were the number 1 seed in the Western Conference until the last 2.5 weeks of the season, until Dallas took it over for good. I just want to see something from this offense. Yes, I know they put up goal numbers earlier in this series against Edmonton, but that was more to do with Edmonton than it had to do with Vancouver scoring chances. Bad goaltending was aplenty early in the series from Edmonton.
Correct.
Show me something on offense. You show me anything on offense, you know what? I don't think Vancouver's beaten either Dallas or Colorado, which, by the way, of course, teams so far in this round, Alex, are a nice hearty 0-4 in closeout games after Colorado extended their series last night against Dallas. But show me something. Show me, if you're Vancouver, show me that you can compete with the winner of that other series if you upset Edmonton here. Show me that you can pull this thing off against an Edmonton team that has opened the door for you and is leaving it wide open for you to steal this series in a series that Edmonton has no business losing, Alex.
You're right, and they definitely have the star power here, so we'll see how Edmonton's stars step up in this game going to Vancouver, because from the flip side, like, they need to show something. They're playing against a third-string goalie. They should have had this series already done, to be honest. But it's been fun. I know it's been very unpredictable. It's been, I think the last 4, right, have been won by 1 goal, either side. So it's been tight. It's been a good series. Yeah, competitive.
Still think, if anything, I would. If you like Vancouver tonight, I think it is worth taking a small piece of the series price, because obviously if they lose, it's not dead. You just don't end up with the best of the number. But I think if you like Vancouver tonight, I think a small bite of that plus 175 is pretty reasonable if you wanted to do that with Vancouver. Again, Edmonton is Edmonton still. Still got to get over the fact on that. All right, let's go to the other game. Take the superstition out of this, please. $1.60 on a Carolina behind us. That's minus 160. Plus 140 on the Rangers. 5.5 the total. Best number out there looks like on the Canes is minus 155. And that plus 140 behind us seems to be the best number out there on the Rangers. Just ask you this. Just from a perspective of, hey, the Rangers won those first 3 games in part because Shesterkin was outrageous in games 2 and 3. Where if you just looked at all the numbers, Carolina was the better team in Game 2 for sure. Game 3 was more of a flip, but they were favored slightly by what the numbers spit it out at the end of the game. I am very concerned if I were the Rangers here, where kind of felt like, hey, you got a 1-0 lead going into the third period at home in Game 5. Finish this thing out, and the Canes put up 4 goals in that third period. And just a little extra clenching at this point for the Rangers. And now, yes, ahead 3-2, but not the way that anyone expected it to get there at 3-2.
Well, like you always say, I mean, this does take the pressure off of the Canes, right? And they're going back home, so now they can play a little more freely. They're not really supposed to be here now, going down 3 games in this series. So I don't have any play on the side because I actually think it's a little high. I made Carolina $1.50 even at home, so I wouldn't lay that minus 160. If anything, I would wait and see if bettors came back and lean to the Rangers side a little bit, or maybe even take the puck line with them, that plus 1.5. I do expect a tight, low-scoring game, though, so I am going under that 5.5. I think we'll see like a 3-2, maybe even a 2-1 type of game here.
I would lean to the under as well. I would also look at one thing. I want to see how the Rangers come out tonight. You look at the way that the Rangers come out tonight. If they're flat, then I'd be very concerned about the under. Be very concerned about the under. If they're flat. I would be, because then Carolina, if the magic number here is 3. If Carolina gets to 3 while it's, let's say it's like 3-1, 3-2, pull the goalie, all that stuff. Yeah, it's not an elimination game, but you and I are in agreement. We both would lean to the under here. I think Carolina's going to win. I think we're getting Game 7. And then who knows at that point, because then Carolina will be looking to fill out one hand of teams that have pulled a 3-0 comeback in the NHL.
Ryan, do you think he's doing the reverse jinx here?
I'm absolutely not.
He shook his head. Yes,
I'm not even going to let Ryan even get his thought out. Absolutely not.
No,
I genuinely look. We've talked about this for weeks now. As soon as the playoffs were set, when Carolina was the betting favorite to win the cup, and the Rangers with home ice throughout,
yes,
were sitting at 10-1 at some books. I always thought the Rangers and the Canes were slightly mispriced, but I still think they're the 2 best teams in the NHL. So, yeah, the second best team is absolutely capable of doing this, at least in my mind.
Right, yes.
And, yeah, it doesn't matter that right now that I still have the Rangers, at least for me, the Rangers is the best team. Carolina is the second best team, even though Dallas, even with that loss last night, making a nice little claim for that. It's possible. Carolina's more than good enough. And most importantly, it's playoff hockey. So anything's in play at this point, Alex.
I do like the under, though. And like you said, that key number is 3. We got to keep it under there. Yesterday was brutal because it was 2-2 in the third period with the Avs and the Stars. And the next time I looked, it was blew over that total. But it's going to be a great, great game between these two. We'll see if we get a Game 7.
Do you have any other thoughts on a Colorado comeback last night? 5-3, easy over. They're going back to Denver after looking like a team that was done for after Game 4.
I didn't really get to watch that one. How did they look offensively?
I mean, that third period, they were Colorado on offense. They did what they did to Winnipeg. And I would say this now, 3-1 on the Lanch to win the series. There are worse 3-1 bets, even though I think Dallas will still win this series. And you're getting to the point where it's all right. Colorado is right down. Well, they're only $1.20 in game. Wow, that's actually surprisingly cheap. That would actually might be one. I know I'll make Jeff Fogel happy with this, but I have to look at your prices and see what the rollovers would potentially pay on that, because it very well may be paying you more than 3-1. at that point. Boy, I'm a little surprised Colorado's only $1.20 at home. That seems a little bit cheap. Maybe convincing myself for a Friday bet before we even get to Friday.
That's okay. We may have two-way action on the desk.
That seems cheap, though. We'll get the other. The full breakdowns tomorrow on the two games. Of course, Florida tries to wrap it in Boston. Colorado tries to stave off at home against Dallas. All right, coming up next, Danny Burke joins us. We look at the NBA. We look at some bigger baseball thoughts, and Danny has thoughts on the Chicago Bears. Plenty more to come. Sports by the Book, South Point Studio.
South Point offers all the types of entertainment you'd expect at a first-class Las Vegas resort. Did you know our 400-seat showroom is one of Las Vegas's top destinations for live entertainment? Enjoy live performances by classic Vegas entertainers, bands, and today's hottest comedians, plus a rockin' dance floor. You can also enjoy live entertainment at the Grand View Lounge, where you'll feel all the vibes of old Las Vegas. Enjoy the music, and if you love to laugh, don't miss The Dirty at 12:30, our very own free comedy show, every Friday night at 12:30 a.m. in the Grand View Lounge. The Dirty is 100% free, so arrive early. Go to southpointcasino.com or call the box office at 77136 for today's performances at the showroom and the Grand View Lounge. When you're ready for your favorite cocktail, stop in and unwind at one of our 7 specialty lounges. There's a bar around every corner, because you're in Vegas, baby. South Point Casino has plenty of attractions for the whole family. Catch a movie. Our 16-screen movie theater includes 2 XD Extreme screens for the ultimate in viewing, sound, and luxury. After the show, treat the family to a variety of treats at our old-fashioned ice cream parlor, Kate's Corner. We scoop up a variety of creamy concoctions, including smoothies, hand-dipped cones, milkshakes, malts, sodas, and sundaes. At Kate's, there's something for everyone. And if you've still got time to spare, our bowling center might be right up your alley. Voted Best of Las Vegas, it's a great place for friends and family fun. 64 lanes, a pro shop, snack bar, and arcade. And while the kids are bowling, you can play slots and sip on a drink in the Alley Cat Lounge while overlooking the lanes. For our more serious and professional bowlers, the South Point is also home to a separate tournament bowling plaza.
Welcome back in Sports by the Book. I'm Jeff Parles, Alex White. Now joining us, our guy in Chicago. We always love talking to him. Our guy, DB. Burke'sBeat.com. Burke's Beat is the podcast as well. Our guy, Danny Burke. Good morning, DB.
Appreciate you having me on. Always a pleasure to talk some shop with you. And, of course, we got exciting times, right? Not only the postseason, hockey, basketball, but we got a little action on the link. So exciting times ahead this weekend.
Danny, you bet your boy Bryson DeChambeau again, right? Did it again?
I did. Yeah. At the Masters, it was that last second poll that I had on him. I remember talking to it with you guys, and, he gave me some excitement for the first few days. And then it was pretty evident mentally he was kind of breaking down. And now it seems like Valhalla could set up nicely. As I know Brady explained on your show, he explained on my podcast, and a lot of people have discussed it suits well for the long drivers who can stay accurate there. And it's a unique putting green as well, but this could definitely be a viable course for a guy like Bryson. So sweating out a top 20 in and outright. And I know Alex is at least as well with him on the top 10. So hopefully our guy Bryson delivers for us this weekend.
I am, Danny, and I completely forgot about him going into the Masters. I'll never forget Jeff's reaction, though, when you did give us that pick. He was like,
I was shocked.
He was shocked. And then he did fantastic at the Masters.
Yeah.
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
Any other bets going into that weekend PGA Championship?
Yeah, so like I normally do, and I've told you guys, usually I follow Brady. I mean, he's one of the best minds when it comes to betting golf. So the other bets that I tailed him on, let's see. So Bryson was one. I didn't go with Xander, even though he's off to a great start. I know we were joking at the beginning, or I guess off air, about how Xander's look great, but inevitably he'll probably fall to like third or something like that. I also took a little stab on Jon Rahm. I think John's going to bounce back. I'm not in love with what's been happening with him lately, the controversy in terms of how he's feeling with Live and then versus the PGA Tour. I took a little flyer on Sepp Straka and Zalatoris, who I know Brady liked. And then I'm missing someone right there in the middle who I also had a little bet on that Brady liked as well. Maybe you could help refresh my memory. It wasn't Rory, but it was Joaquin Niemann. That's because I also had him at Augusta too, one of the hottest players in Live. So I'm hoping that can translate here, especially with how he is out of the tee box with his driver. So I think I got him at around 38-1, maybe 40-1. But yeah, that's who I'm also going to be sweating out here for this major championship.
Danny, let's go to the hardwood. The T-Wolves were in such good shape a week ago. Not so much now. Now in a 3-2 hole after winning the first two in Denver in this series. You are looking at a prop in this game, and I'm just curious your thoughts here because Mike Conley missed Game 5 with Achilles soreness. Still awaiting if he's going to be in for certain tonight. The expectation is that he is going to play, but you're looking at it as assist props. Of course, if he doesn't play, you'd get your money back. But
right.
Are you concerned about running the risk with a guy who's playing with a potential injury to his Achilles here, Danny?
So I definitely understand being concerned about that, but I think more so that's what it would aid in the assist category versus saying looking at his points, because when Conley's facilitating out there, it certainly spreads his offense a little more so. And even if he's like 90%, again, he can do enough to make some of these defenders collapse or set the high screen and set up some of these other players, which you saw last game. It seemed virtually impossible for a guy like Anthony Edwards to create a quality look. Now, Edwards was a little too hesitant where he should have attacked earlier once a double team was coming or gotten rid of the rock more quickly. Easier said than done, but it's going to be interesting to see what kind of offensive strategy the Timberwolves have, assuming that once again, the Nuggets are going to keep throwing a pair of players at Anthony Edwards. But I think if Conley does come in, that helps in that regard. And then again, he's just going to spread the offense. I mean, you look at some of his numbers, he's averaging 8 assists per game throughout this season, throughout this series itself. And then if you look at some of those advanced metrics being his potential assists, he leads the team in potential assists this specific series at just about 10. So he's gone over 5.5, which is where his numbers posted at virtually every single book. He's gone over that in every single game this postseason, except for one. He's gone over it in every single game against the Nuggets. But again, this is a game facing elimination where you need your star players to step up. And that's where Mike Conley steps into where, again, he poses the threat of being able to score. He'll probably get you about 10 points. But because he still has enough respect to draw the defense toward him, and because he's just a true point guard, he's going to be able to set up those key opportunities for some of these other guys. So I laid minus $135 at the 5.5 spot for his assists. Again, he's been creating those opportunities all series long. The metrics are showing that he's been giving a lot of those spots for his teammates as well. And this is where those guys have to step up. So if he is in, I do like it at the price of 5.5 minus 135. Would probably play it up to minus $140. Not much higher than that, though.
Danny, let's talk about the East just a little bit. So Boston finishes that series against Cleveland. Now they're kind of waiting to see who the winner is between the Knicks and the Pacers. You're in a pretty good position. I know you have a bet on a favorite of the East and a really good bet on a Western Conference team. But looking at that between the Knicks and the Pacers, who would give the Celtics the best run here in a 7-game series?
It's really hard to say because if we're speaking of depth, obviously the answer goes to Indiana, but their lack of defense and their inability to close out some of these road games certainly scare me against a team like Boston. I mean, if you're going to get into a shootout against a team like the Celtics, and I know they've looked brutal in these game twos that they've had, but I could just see a scenario where they're absolutely bullying Indiana. And the difference there then when you get this Knicks team is just that mentality and that toughness. And even though they're lacking the depth, they can really punish Boston and wear them down. And when it gets into these fourth quarters, we see that be evident with New York offensively when just everything is relying on Brunson. But they have done a little better of taking some of that strain off of him. You saw DiVincenzo go off a little bit more consistently. We know what Josh Hart can provide if he's hitting his shots from deep. So I guess the answer has to be New York, not by much, again, just because of the lack of depth, but because of that mentality and defensive prowess, it has to be the Knicks, who I think could snag a couple of games. And I also think home court-wise, Madison Square Garden is going to be a little bit more tougher of a place to play when a team like Boston comes in, as opposed to traveling somewhere like Indiana, who, yes, very faithful, passionate, great home crowd. But the way MSG's been rocking, it's really hard to compete with that right now.
Oh, Danny Burke insulting the whole state of Indiana on the show this morning. We didn't have that on the bingo card.
They're good. It's just not, not.
Danny, I 100% agree with what you're saying. I couldn't avoid it on that. DB, this baseball card today, for lack of a better word, is lacking. So I'm not going to ask you to make a play on any of these 6 games today. But there is one team I just have to ask you about, and that's the Phillies, who, Danny, they didn't get to 18 games over 500 last year until September. They're 31-13 through 44 games. They're the best record in the National League. They're 3 games clear of Atlanta, who we all thought was going to be one of the 2 best teams, if not the best team in baseball. They're 3.5 games clear of the Dodgers. Just how high is this ceiling for Philly? Is it a ceiling where they could actually steal this NL East and make the Braves go through the wild card sequence? Or do you think this is a really good 94, 95 win team that probably won't be enough to beat Atlanta in the NL East?
I still think the way that I would view this is trying to find a better price a little bit later in the season on the Braves. Now, if the Phillies do end up coming out and winning this division, it shouldn't shock anybody. We saw what this team was capable of in the postseason last year. They have not as much, but enough talent to compete with the likes of the Braves and the Dodgers. And more importantly, this starting rotation has been insanely impressive. I mean, Christopher Sanchez coming out of nowhere. Suarez, the southpaw, has been holding his own. We know how great Zach Wheeler's been. So outside of Wheeler, if you can keep the Sanchez, the Suarez, if you can keep those guys to stay consistent, they have dominant enough hitters in their lineup to capture this division and make another run throughout the postseason. But again, that doesn't mean that I would be so eager to go to the counter and make a bet on Philadelphia, just because I do think realistically some of those starters will revert back to the mean a tad bit. And then more so on the side of Atlanta, their offense has been in kind of a rut here, especially against right-handed pitching the last few weeks. They're eventually going to figure it out. And more importantly, their starting rotation is probably going to end up staying more constant with getting these quality performances. I mean, look at what Chris Sale's been able to do. I mean, this guy should absolutely be in the Cy Young conversation, even though we're just in May. He has been amazing, and he's really found his stride back into the mix, and it helps when you have counterparts that are supporting you and helping you out, so that offense will come back into the mix. They'll be fine. And if for some reason later on we get a pretty healthy plus price in Atlanta, I think that's more worth taking a risk on than going with a shorter price now that they've been doing hot in terms of backing the Philadelphia Phillies. But it's going to be a fascinating division finish, to say the least.
Danny, let's talk about the NL Central a little bit. I know it's early, but to me it's a 2-man race here between the Brewers and the Cubs. The Pirates started pretty hot, but now they have just struggled offensively. And then the Cardinals here struggling again, even though they went off as the betting favorite. Give me your thoughts on this division.
Yeah, well, with the Cardinals, they were a team, and I know Jeff was on board with this one. I took their under win total. I didn't think they did that much to improve their roster. Just brought in some veteran pitchers who have been okay from time to time, but offensively, they just continue to be in their woes. Now, with the Brewers, I am a little shocked with how dominant they've been in themselves, but I think they're a team that's going to falter the later we get throughout this season. The Cubs still should be the team to win it. And I'm not just saying that as a Cubs fan, because if you look at what they've been able to accomplish with missing Seiya Suzuki for a majority of this first or beginning stage of the season, same with Cody Bellinger. Now Dansby Swanson's out. And they have virtually no bullpen. Their bullpen is complete garbage. So they're going to have to add pieces. They just brought in a pitcher from the Seattle Mariners to help out with the relief staff. They're going to acquire more guys once we get probably into the stages of July, around the All-Star break and closer to that trade deadline, of course. And then with their starting rotation, Javier Assad, he leads the NL in terms of ERA, or maybe Imanaga is still at the top. But either way, Javier Assad and Imanaga have been stellar. And Imanaga definitely worth consideration for a Cy Young candidate here. I mean, again, his ERA, I think, is sub-1. I think Javier Assad's a little bit above 1, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know what it was after last night's performance, but he just showed you against one of the better offenses that he can be a stud on the bump. And then aside from that, Tyon, I faded him against the Braves. I mean, he's been good, but his underlying metrics are concerning. Kyle Hendricks is a nightmare. We know that's been coming for quite some time. But at least the guys who you know you can rely on will continue to put the Cubs in positions to win. It's just a matter if their offense is going to back him up. Ian Happ needs to get his bats going, and he will once it comes to a little bit warmer weather, and he'll thrive at the friendly confines. But the biggest thing, and we all know this, is that bullpen. So once they get a piece or two more, then they will start to surge, and they should be the team to come out on top of that Central Division.
Danny Burke with us right now. DB, we will ask you one more question and then let you get on your way today. And, of course, it has to be about the Chicago Bears. We know the schedule. I already talked to our guy, Ryan McCormick, our resident Bear fan here. And, Danny, it's way too early to be making any predictions, at least from my end. But the Bears, at least in this schedule, they get a nice soft landing spot in week 1 for Caleb Williams. With Tennessee in week 1, they're 4-point favorites at books that have it up right now. A line that I actually guessed correctly, shockingly enough. But weird quirk with the schedule, they play all their divisional games in November and later, which I don't know if I would love that if I were someone that wants to take a Bear to make the playoff future, a Bear over. I think they are 10-win good, but that does give me a little bit of pause with those 6 divisional games in a division that is really good for the first time in a while, as a whole, I should say. I mean, look at that. There's your schedule right there. Everyone is week 11 or later within the division. Oh, and by the way, the Niners are mixed in there as well.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. That is certainly the concern, is having all of those division opponents in that back half stretch. But I mean, like you said, the beginning opener with Tennessee is very strong for Caleb Williams to showcase, get a little familiar, a little comfortable, and that should result in the win for the Bears. Then you have week 2 and 3 on the road. You got Houston and you got Indianapolis. The Houston game probably going to end up being a loss, but you could still consider that a toss-up. I think the game in Indy is a toss-up, maybe a little lean toward the Bears. I think they get dubs against the Rams and the Panthers, and then you got that international game against Jacksonville. I consider that a 50-50 spot. Coming off the bye week, though, this 5-week stretch is going to be great for Chicago. I think they win the next 5 games. At Washington, at Arizona, those should be wins. Versus New England, they're going to be in a big rebuilding stage. Green Bay, they're probably going to split with the Packers. I'm not as high on Jordan Love as other people are. And then Minnesota, they're in somewhat of a rebuild as well, bringing in J.J. McCarthy and still defensive question marks. And they're going to be a little better. And I know that Flores coming in last year certainly helped, but I think the Bears at home will have the advantage. Week 13 at Detroit, Thanksgiving, that's going to be a loss. Week 14 at San Francisco, that should be a loss. Week 15 at Minnesota, I think that's going to be a really close game, because you usually want to err to the side of division matchups being, you split. I'll put that as a toss-up, but give a little edge still to the Bears. Versus Detroit, again, you would think because of the split, the Bears could win that one. But if the Lions are still going to be in cruise control from last year, you could consider that 50-50. I think they win versus Seattle, and then at Green Bay, toss-up, probably lose. But who knows what happens in Week 18. That's always a little wonky. We see the over-under at 8.5, juice to the over. I would bet this over. I would. I think the safe assumption is 9 wins. If I'm being a little bit more on the bullish side, and I know you think the same here, Jeff, I think 10 is realistic. I wouldn't go out there, screaming at everybody, oh, they're for sure getting the double-digit wins. But no, I think the realistic expectation is to get to 9 wins, but they're definitely capable of getting to 10. the smarter play might be almost to just back them to make the playoffs, depending on how you think the rest of the NFC does, of course. But minus 104 was the cheapest price that I saw here in Illinois. And maybe it only takes them, 9 wins to get there, but you're not having to sweat it out with the win total. I don't know. A lot of things could obviously come into play depending on everybody else's schedule. And then you're not laying as much as you would with the 8.5 minus 145. But yeah, Jeff, again, the price isn't insanely alluring to really bet this far out. But yeah, my expectation is at least 9 wins for sure.
That is a number we have not seen in a while from the Chicago Bears as well. Again, their roster's good. And look, we'll have plenty of summer. We're going to be doing a segment, a team a day, starting in a few weeks here on the show. And the Bears Day, I can't wait for, because there are some teams where the variance is high. You have a rookie quarterback. You have a coach I don't really love in Eberflus, but then you look at the rest of the roster and they're loaded. And if Caleb Williams ends up being good and Shane Waldron ends up being a big upgrade over Getsy, which I think everyone hopes will be the case, this could be a fun team. But that division is loaded. Packers are really good. The Lions might be the best team in the NFC going into the year. And yes, Minnesota's in a rebuild, Darnold and McCarthy, but they still have Justin Jefferson, and they still have a head coach that I think is pretty good despite people backing away from O'Connell a year ago. The best the NFC North has been in a long time as a whole here in 2024. Burke's Beat is the show where you can find Danny. You can find it at burksbeat.com as well. Danny Burke 5 on Twitter. Every week with us here on Sports by the Book. DB, thank you, buddy. We'll see you again next week.
Alex, Jeff, always appreciate it. Take care, guys.
Absolutely.
Thank you,
Danny
Danny
Burke, everyone. I'm going to take the headphones off, let my head breathe a little bit again. Alex, let's go through this here, because this baseball card today is short. It's doesn't scream many bets today. What is Chris hanging on the? You have the sheet next to you on the team totals.
Yes, I do have the team totals.
What are they hanging on the Mets team total today?
Because that is where I was looking as well. I was looking at the Yankees. No, I was looking at the Reds Dodgers over, but I want to see their team total. Okay, first let's start with the Mets 3.5.
3.5 under.
Okay,
under on that. Mets can't score right now, even though they put 5 up last night. That was because they put 4 on the back end of the Phillies bullpen when the game was already over. So
even
I like
money.
that.
Even money if you're going under.
I don't mind that under. I don't mind that. The Mets are just not hitting right now.
On the flip side, the Phillies 4.5.
Yeah, tough.
Plus
That's
money
tough.
on the over.
Quintana is coming off back to back. One really bad start, one meh start. I expect them to be a little bit better, but I would look more to the Met team total under than the Phillies team total at all, Alex.
So with both these pitchers, last 3 starts, the batting average of their opponents have been very down. So maybe that is a
That's Walker and
game under.
That's
well.
Walker and Quintana tonight. Taijuan Walker, after a really bad start to begin the season in his season debut in San Diego, has pitched 2 very good games in a row. Now, granted, one of them was against the Marlins, so take that with a little grain of salt. But much better after 6 earned in 6 innings against San Diego.
4.82 ERA, not great. So, Phil, we did talk about that team. I think that total, though, for the game is just about right there at 9.
Yeah, 8.5 right now.
8.5, yeah.
Juiced under now.
So looking at the Reds and the Dodgers, though, we do have Glass now on the mound. I was looking at that over 7.5, but that scares me with him on the mound. So maybe I'll just look at the Dodgers team total, even though they struggled last night. And it is 5.5 here. Got to pay the...
Brent Suter goes for the Reds. He'll be an opener for Cincinnati. Reds have been a pretty big disappointment with all the young talent, all the hubbub going into the season. A lot of people thought that they were going to be right in the mix in the NL Central.
And I completely left them out of the question.
Yeah, they're 8 games.
Bad.
Yeah, because they're forgettable. They're 8 games back, even with all that young talent. It's been of all those teams that are like quote unquote, I don't want to say out of the race because it's May 16th,
right?
But 7.5 back. Pittsburgh, St. Louis, and Cincinnati. I was in the same camp as Danny. I thought the Cardinals did nothing this offseason other than one pitching addition, which was not enough. The Pirates, I still think, are a year away from being a year away. I thought the Reds would be the one that could take the leap, and the Reds have been a big disappointment so far through 40-some-odd games.
We'll see with the Pirates. I'm still curious because now with these young pitchers. We've got Jared Jones, and then now, of course, we've seen Skeen.
Yep.
So we'll see what happens with them. Maybe they can flip the switch.
That's the
and
best
hang around
pitching
there.
matchup of the day, by the way, on the north side. It's Steele and Jones at a 7.5. I mean, just high-end pitch. Jones is probably the best pitcher that a lot of people don't know about so far this year in baseball. High strikeout rate. If they would actually let him pitch more than 5 innings, that would be nice. Which they just have not been. They've been unwilling to let him go more than 6, and very rarely even more than 5.
56 strikeouts to his 7 walks. On the
Yeah,
year.
he's been awesome. He's been. There's a legitimate argument to be made. He's been the best pitcher in the National League so far this year. I know that people in Philadelphia would contend with me on that with Ranger Suarez and Zach Wheeler, but Jones has been great. All those numbers are right in that game. I don't think that's bettable, at least pre-flop standards in the Cubs and Pirates. I think nothing wrong with those numbers.
Just starting this 4-game series between these two, right? Because I know that they just had a
played
3-game
7
series.
times in 10 days, Alex.
Very good.
Yeah. Great scheduling all the way around. We even have to, Frankie Fungo trivia on punchlines. I have to do the same teams today. Same teams. Not overly excited by that, McCormick. I was really hoping I could get Octavio Dotel again, but we couldn't here today. By the way, Alex, there's one WNBA game tonight. It's Caitlin Clark's first game in New York. Liberty home opener tonight. The Liberty at home this is in Indiana. This is the home.
Okay,
Sorry, I misread my sheet. This is the home opener for the Fever. 8-point favorites, the Liberty on the road in Indianapolis. So the New York team in Indy yet again.
I was terrified because
that was my mistake. I'm sorry.
I made the Liberty a 5-point favorite on the road, so my number would
So
complete.
you like the Fever if this number gets high enough.
Exactly. I'm going to wait for some sharps to come in, take Liberty, get that number a little bit higher.
8.5 not enough for you yet?
I mean, we're getting there.
You want 9?
I'm treading lightly because Liberty did not look great in their first game the other day, but I do know what they are capable of. And on the flip side, Indiana really did not look good. So I don't want to, you know what I mean? So I brought Liberty down a little bit as well as the Fever. So I think this number is pretty accurate, but I want as many points as I can get with the dog.
We'll see how high that gets.
Yes.
Here today.
Because again, we know we're going to see everybody's best effort when they're going up against Caitlin Clark and the Fever.
Sean, did Chris just handed you the win totals? Yeah. Do you want to? We go. Ryan will walk them over to us. That's okay. I'll read them and then I'll. Thank you very much. Season win totals officially up here at the South Point for the NFL season. So, Alex White, we'll break this down in full tomorrow. Just eyeballing this real quick. The Kansas City Chiefs and the San Francisco 49ers are the high water mark. No shock. 11.5. Technically, the Chiefs are projected to be the best team in the NFL by these numbers because they're over 11.5 is minus 110. While the Niners is plus 110 on the over 11.5. And then the low water mark, Carolina. Yep, Carolina, 4.5. Over minus 130 on Carolina. New England's at 5. Flat 5.
Sounds about right.
That's just the early. Don't worry. We'll look at these tomorrow.
And you guys will jump in a little bit during punchlines.
Ryan, will we be talking
them
about these on punchlines a little bit? Yeah, right? Yeah, a little bit. As we mentioned before, Chicago's at 9.
Ooh,
Ryan, you're projected to be over 500. Look at that. Jets are at 9.5 with the juice on the over. That's frightening. Even though I think that's the right number on that, with the way that schedule busted up there with a nice little draw earlier in the year for the Jets, other than week 1. Locally, Raiders are 6.5 with juice on the over.
I haven't had a whole lot of time to look at their schedules yet.
I will say that is a sharp number, Chris Andrews. That is a sharp number right there on the Vegas Raiders.
I like Gardner Minshew, though. I might.
Yeah, well, we'll see. It'll be interesting to see who starts week 1 for them.
Exactly.
And we'll
Is
go through
him or is it
because I've been a little, if I were a Raider fan, I would be a little bit worried with what Pierce has said in the offseason because Minshew, even though I'm not a huge Minshew guy, I think he's a great backup. I think he's a mediocre starter. He's better than Aiden O'Connell.
Correct.
I don't think it takes much to realize that he's better than Aiden O'Connell. And the way that Pierce has talked this offseason, I'm a little worried that Aiden O'Connell might win that job, and that would not be a good sign for the Raiders moving forward.
Just the social media team in general and seeing all these Aiden O'Connell posts,
Yeah,
I was thinking that too. Maybe he is staying in that position.
If O'Connell's the starter there. Ryan, what's coming up on Punchlines today? Oh, that's right. I'm on the show. See, I should know that, Alex. We got a great show. Frank will hopefully not destroy any more property. We hope. Maybe. I don't know. Are we rooting for destruction of property from Frank? It does deliver great content, Ryan. Yeah, I mean, exactly. I think that might be you know what? Punchlines, as long as it's funny with Frank Nicotero coming up at noon today, I'll be there. You'll be there tomorrow with Frank after being there.
Yes,
You didn't destroy any property yesterday, right?
No,
Good.
Absolutely
And
not. No, on my watch.
we need a sign in here. Days without incidents. 1 for Frank Nicotero. By the way, Frank Nicotero performing at Jimmy Kimmel Comedy Club on Friday and Saturday night.
One show on Friday, two on Saturday.
Yep, be on the lookout for that if you're in Vegas. If you want to see Frank in his element there, just off the strip in the lane by the High Roller by the link. Alex, great work.
Thank you, and we'll be back tomorrow. Race day before us, though. So
Race Day Las Vegas. Yep, Race Day Las Vegas tomorrow at 7 in the morning. There was no gone racing today. It's the off week All-Star race, right? All-Star race. Brennan had basically said if you have too much money if you bet the All-Star race. Yeah, so it sounds about right. It's like betting the All-Star game in Major League Baseball, at least to me. Sean, and great work as always. Ryan McCormick getting you ready for Punchlines. Coming your way in 2 hours. This has been Sports by the Book, South Point Studio.